Jim, as you start to hear all those headlines that Christina laid out for us, does that make you increasingly nervous about the way the stock market is positioned right now?
Well, yeah, it does, because you've seen it in the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. The so-called reopening stocks, the cruise ships, the airlines, and so on, been dramatically underperforming the rest of the market. And the old work-from-home stocks, by and large, have had a very good month. I think the market is starting to sniff out that there are restrictions coming. Christina laid out a lot of those restrictions, and I suspect in another week or two, that list is going to be much larger.
Tom, why is it that you think the market doesn't seem to really be reacting, with the exception of a couple days here or there, to the news going on with the Delta variant? I was sort of surprised to see more muted action today, given all of the news that was coming out.
I can think of 4 reasons for this. Number one, the Delta variant was really a 45-day episode in the UK, 50 days in India. So we know there is going to be an end date where in the US the virus runs out of people to infect and it slows. The second is last year when we did have our waves of cases, the stock market peaks 34 days before cases peak. So we have to remember there's going to be a market panic. But when policymakers panic, we're okay. I think one of the third reasons is the Delta variant, while it is actually very transmissible and seeming to cause severe illness in vaccinated people, the number of deaths in the U.S. and even hospitalization rates are actually quite low, and they've actually begun to roll over in the U.S. And then finally, I just think it's not only appropriate to see these actions taken by companies, which will help mitigate things. I kind of think in the fall, many of our clients were expecting some of these mask mandates to come back as flu season comes. So I think the market's taking it in stride.
So, Jim, you don't think that the market is expecting any sort of shutdowns, any sort of real impact to the economy. But what if there is some sort of change here? Should investors be prepared for that?
Yeah, I think they should. As it keeps going, remember, Tom laid out a lot of really good points, but at the end of the day, the decisions on restrictions on the economy, masks, possible lockdowns, can be made by politicians. They're going to be made by politicians in consort with some experts, but there's still politicians are going to draw the line. And we saw how that was a flip-flop a lot last year with those decisions. I also think that if we do see some kind of restrictions or something, you're probably going to see Congress spring into action. And the potential of stimulus, it's not off the table yet. And let's all remember back in March when we got the $1,200 stimulus checks, we had a surge into brokerage accounts that is still a record for ETF flows and mutual fund flows on a weekly basis right after those checks came. So I think some people in the market think, okay, well, if we don't get the lockdowns, then the economy continues to recover. And if we do get the lockdowns, they're going to mail a lot of money, and that money's going to wind up in brokerage accounts. We saw that in April.
That's an interesting thought. Tom, ever since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had kind of this binary market idea. You've got the stay-at-home stocks, you've got the reopening stocks. In this kind of period of uncertainty, what basket would you be finding opportunity in right now?
Well, I think Jim is correct to say when markets get nervous, they're going to really stick to stocks that they know can grow, day in and day out. So I think FANG and these stay-at-homes work. But we're also in a period where markets are generally choppy. July, August, it's just been a very tough month historically for markets to make money. So I think Delta is sort of adding to that noise, which makes me think as we get into the fall, the stocks that are going to be the biggest bargains, and as people get more confident about Delta ending, it's going to be these reopening names like the cruise lines and the hotels, the energy stocks. And these are going to be things that companies are going to have some visibility on because they'll ultimately breathe a sigh of relief as well.
Jim, do you see opportunity there as well, or would you pick a different trade right now?
No, I see opportunity there. The only thing I would caution against is the opening of the office is going to be the most tricky thing that we're going to, as we move forward from here. A lot of people, let's talk the dirty little secret, a lot of people don't really want to go back to the office. And if the Delta variant is another rationalization to keep them from the office, and we have to push back the reopening of a lot of offices, we're going to maybe see a wholesale change in office, and I'd be very leery of the commercial real estate market. Now, it hasn't, especially the office real estate market, really buckled a lot under this. But as we move forward, we get into the fall and we're still not opening the offices, whether it's Delta or whatever other reason we have, think people are going to have to start to rethink that sector of the market.